She stood in the marble lobby wearing her mother's worn coat, a young black woman with determination in her eyes. The CEO looked at her like she was dirt on his $1,000 shoes. He laughed. You think you belong here? His words cut through the air like broken glass. Everyone in that building heard him. Everyone saw how he looked at her, how he smiled when he said it. But what he didn't know, what Asterisk knew, was who she really was. And when the President of the United States walked into that same building 3 months later and called her Madam Director, the silence was deafening. This is the story of how one man's cruelty became his greatest lesson, how a black mother's sacrifice became her daughter's strength, and how the truth, no matter how buried, always finds its way to the surface. You think you know where this is going? You don't. Because what happened between that day in the lobby and the day the President spoke her name, it'll break your heart before it heals it. Let me show you exactly how this happened. Her name was Jessica Morrison, young black woman, 24 years old, with her mother's warm brown eyes and determined spirit. And every morning before sunrise, she watched her mother, Ruth, a proud black woman who had worked her whole life with dignity, put on her cleaning uniform and leave their small apartment. Ruth had cleaned the Hamilton Tech headquarters for 18 years. 18 years of mopping floors that executives walked across without looking down. 18 years of emptying trash cans filled with half-eaten lunches that cost more than her daily wage. 18 years of being invisible. Jessica, a bright young black girl with braided hair and big dreams, grew up in those hallways. As a child, she'd sit in the storage closet doing homework while her mother worked. She'd watch through the crack in the door as important people rushed past, men in suits, women in heels, mostly white faces, all of them moving fast, all of them important. One day, Ruth would whisper to her daughter, "You'll walk these halls differently, not cleaning them." Leading them. Jessica believed her. She studied harder than anyone in her school, won scholarships, worked 3 jobs through college, got her Master's degree in technology management while her mother's hands grew rough from chemicals and her back bent from years of labor. But dreams don't erase reality, and reality was this. Hamilton Tech was run by people who looked right through people like Jessica. And Ruth, to black women trying to survive in a world that often refused to see them, they saw uniforms, not humans. They saw service, not sacrifice. The CEO, whose name was Richard Blackwell, was the worst of them all. A white man born into wealth and privilege, he'd made his fortune young, inherited his father's company and multiplied it, built Hamilton Tech into a billion-dollar empire, and somewhere along the way, he forgot that empires are built by human hands. He treated the cleaning staff, mostly black and brown women, like furniture. He'd have meetings in hallways while Ruth, this dignified black woman, scrubbed floors beside him, never once lowering his voice or acknowledging her presence. Once, he'd stepped over her bucket without breaking his sentence. Ruth never complained. She needed that job. She needed the health insurance. She needed to keep sending money to help Jessica finish graduate school. But Jessica saw everything. She remembered everything. And now, with her degree complete and resume polished, she'd applied for a junior management position at Hamilton Tech, not because she wanted to work for Richard Blackwell, but because she wanted to prove something to her mother, to herself, to everyone who ever looked through them. But the day she walked into that building for her interview, everything changed. The marble lobby gleamed under crystal chandeliers. Jessica, a beautiful young black woman with natural hair pulled back professionally, wore her only professional suit bought, second-hand, altered by her mother's skilled hands. She carried her portfolio in a folder that she'd saved 3 months to buy. She was early, always early. Her mother taught her that. The receptionist smiled politely. "You can wait over there." Jessica sat, reviewed her notes, practiced her breathing. This was it. This was her moment. Then she heard it. Her mother's voice. "Excuse me, sir? Let me just..." Jessica looked up. Ruth was there, a tired but proud black woman in her cleaning uniform, pushing her cleaning cart, trying to move past a group of executives. Richard Blackwell, a tall white man in an expensive suit, stood among them. He didn't move, didn't even glance at Ruth. "Sir, I just need to..." "Are you still here?" Richard said, not looking at her. His colleagues laughed. "I thought we had the night shift for a reason." Ruth's face went tight. I'm finishing the conference room, sir. I'll be out of your way in. You're always in the way, he said casually, still not looking at her, like she was a problem, not a person. Jessica's hands gripped her folder. Her heart hammered. She wanted to stand, to say something, but her mother caught her eye. Asterisk slightly. Asterisk not now asterisk, that look said. Asterisk not for me. Don't ruin this for yourself. Asterisk Ruth moved her cart, disappeared down the hallway. Executives continued their conversation like nothing happened. Jessica sat back down, but something had shifted inside her. She felt it in her chest. Tightness. A heat. 20 minutes later, her name was called. The interview was in a glass conference room. 3 people sat across from her. Richard Blackwell wasn't among them. Thank God, it went well. She answered every question with confidence, showed her research, presented ideas. By the end, they were nodding, smiling. We'll be in touch, they said. Jessica left that room feeling hope. Real hope. She was walking toward the elevator when she saw her mother again. Ruth was cleaning the lobby now. On her knees, scrubbing a scuff mark near the reception desk, Jessica walked toward her, just to say hello, just to let her know the interview went well. But then Richard Blackwell stepped out of the elevator. He saw Jessica first, saw her professional clothes, saw the folder in her hand, saw her brown skin and natural hair. Can I help you? He asked, not kindly, like she was lost. I just finished an interview, Jessica said, kept her voice steady. An interview? He looked her up and down. For what position? Junior management. Technology operations. His expression changed. Something flickered in his eyes. Surprise, maybe. Or disbelief. Then he saw Ruth, saw her on her knees in her cleaning uniform, saw how Jessica's eyes moved toward her mother, saw the resemblance in their faces to black women, clearly mother and daughter, and he understood. Oh, Richard said. Your asterisk, her asterisk's daughter. The lobby wasn't crowded, but it wasn't empty either. People heard him. People were watching. Yes, Jessica said. Lifted her chin. I am. Richard looked at Ruth, then back at Jessica. Then he laughed, not a quiet laugh, a loud one that echoed off the marble and glass. You, he said, you think asterisk, you asterisk, belong here? The words hung in the air like poison. You grew up watching your mother clean these floors, he continued. Now you think you can walk these halls as an executive? You think a degree changes what you are? Jessica couldn't breathe. Her mother had stopped scrubbing, was frozen there on her knees. We have standards here, Richard said. His voice was casual, conversational, like he was discussing the weather. We hire people who understand excellence, leadership, people who were raised for this, not people who were raised in. Storage closets, someone gasped. Jessica didn't know who. Mr. Blackwell, the receptionist, started. He waved her off, kept his eyes on Jessica. I'm going to make sure your application gets the attention it deserves, he said. Then he turned and walked away. Ruth rose slowly. Tears streamed down her face. Baby, I'm okay, Mama, Jessica whispered. I'm okay, she wasn't okay. Neither of them were. 3 days later, Jessica got the rejection email. Asterisk, we've decided to move forward with other candidates. We wish you the best in your future endeavors. Asterisk, she'd expected it. But it still hurt. Ruth cried more than Jessica did. This is my fault, she said. If I wasn't Tiff, you weren't. Don't, Jessica said firmly. Don't you dare. You gave me everything. This isn't about you. This is about him. About people like him. But the damage was done. The story spread through Hamilton Tech like wildfire. The cleaning lady's daughter who tried to become an executive, the CEO who put her in her place. Some people whispered about how inappropriate it was, but most just laughed. The social order had been maintained. Jessica tried other companies, but Hamilton Tech was the biggest employer in the city. Richard Blackwell sat on boards, played golf with other CEOs, had influence. Doors that should have opened, didn't. She took a job at a small nonprofit. Good work. Important work. But not what she'd trained for. Not what she'd dreamed of. Her mother kept cleaning Hamilton Tech's floors. What choice did she have? She needed the insurance, needed the steady paycheck. But something had broken in Ruth. Jessica saw it. Her mother walked differently now, slower, heavier, like shame had weight. "You hold your head up," Jessica told her. "You hear me? You're the strongest woman I know," Ruth tried. She did. But the light in her eyes had dimmed. 6 months passed. Jessica threw herself into her work at the nonprofit. She managed programs, built partnerships with tech companies who wanted to improve their community image. She was good at it, better than good. She had a gift for seeing systems and solving problems, for bringing people together, for making impossible things happen. Her boss, an older woman named Margaret, watched her carefully. "You're wasted here," she said one day. "You know that, right?" "I'm making a difference," Jessica said. "You could make a bigger one." Jessica didn't answer. What was the point? The bigger world didn't want her. Richard Blackwell had made sure of that. But then Margaret made a phone call to an old friend, someone powerful, someone who owed her a favor. "There's a government initiative," Margaret told Jessica. "Federal program. They're looking for someone to lead the technology inclusion project. It's new. It's important. You'd be perfect." "Government doesn't hire people like me for leadership positions," Jessica said. "Times are changing," Margaret said. "You should apply." Jessica almost didn't. The wound from Hamilton Tech was still fresh. But then she thought about her mother, about dreams deferred and dignity denied. She applied. The process took months. Applications, interviews, background checks, presentations. She met with deputy directors and policy advisors. She outlined her vision for bridging the digital divide, for bringing technology education to underserved communities, for changing systems, not just symptoms. And slowly, impossibly, doors opened. The final interview was in Washington, D.C. Jessica flew there on borrowed money, wore the same suit her mother had altered, carried the same folder. The panel included a senior advisor to the president, a woman with kind eyes and sharp questions. "Why does this matter to you?" she asked. Jessica could have given a political answer, a safe answer. Instead, she told the truth. She told them about her mother, about what it means to be a black woman seen as less than human, what it takes to keep believing you're not. The room was silent when she finished. "Thank you," the senior advisor said quietly. "We'll be in touch." Jessica flew home not knowing what to expect. 2 weeks later, she got the call. She'd been offered the position. Director of the National Technology Inclusion Initiative. A presidential appointment. It's unprecedented for someone so young. For a young black woman with her background. Jessica sat on her apartment floor and cried. Called her mother. "They cried together, I told you," Ruth whispered. "I always told you." The news went public 3 days later. Press releases. Articles, young black director to lead historic tech initiative. Pictures of Jessica, her credentials, her vision. The story spread across social media. Someone recognized the name, made the connection. Posted, "Isn't this the black woman Richard Blackwell humiliated at Hamilton Tech?" Then the video surfaced. Someone had recorded it on their phone. The whole thing. Richard in the lobby, mocking Jessica. The laughter, the cruelty, every word. A white CEO publicly degrading a young black woman. It went viral. Corporate world watched. The black community watched. Everyone watched. Hamilton Tech stock dropped. Board members called emergency meetings. Richard Blackwell issued an apology, a corporate one, crafted by lawyers, empty of meaning. But Jessica didn't respond, didn't comment. She had work to do. The presidential recognition ceremony was scheduled for October. A formal event where the president would introduce the new directors of major initiatives. Jessica would be there, along with dozens of other appointees. Hamilton Tech, seeking to repair its image, donated heavily to technology inclusion programs. They issued statements about their commitment to diversity, to change, to doing better. Richard Blackwell requested a meeting with Jessica. To apologize properly, his assistant said. Jessica declined. Her mother wanted her to accept. "Maybe he's changed," Ruth said. "Maybe he learned. Maybe," Jessica said. "But I don't need his apology to know my worth. Neither do you." The ceremony was held in the White House East Room. Crystal chandeliers. Polished floors. So much like that lobby, but so different. Jessica wore a new suit. Her natural hair styled beautifully. Her mother sat in the audience wearing a dress Jessica had bought her. Ruth's hands were folded in her lap. Those hands that had cleaned and scrubbed and sacrificed. those beautiful, strong black hands. One by one, the directors were introduced: scientists, economists, military leaders, educators. Then the president reached Jessica's name. The room fell quiet. Everyone knew the story by now: the viral video, the vindication, the journey from lobby floor to national leadership. The president looked directly at Jessica, this brilliant young black woman standing tall, and smiled with genuine warmth. "And now," the president said, "I'd like to introduce someone whose story reminds us why this work matters. Inclusion isn't just policy, it's justice." Director Jessica Morrison, head of our National Technology Inclusion Initiative. Jessica walked to the podium, shook the president's hand. Cameras flashed. The president leaned close, spoke loud enough for the microphones to catch. "Your mother must be very proud, Madam Director." The room erupted in applause. Jessica looked out at the audience, found her mother's face, saw Ruth crying, a black woman who had spent her life invisible, now seen by the entire nation. And in that moment, Jessica realized something. This wasn't about revenge. It was never about revenge. It was about visibility. About proving that every black woman cleaning floors or serving food or doing invisible labor has infinite worth as dreams. That night, the video played on every news channel. The president calling her Madame Director, the camera catching Ruth's face in the audience. The story of resilience and redemption and what's possible when we refuse to let cruelty define us. Richard Blackwell watched it in his office, alone. Hamilton Tech's board asked for his resignation 2 days later. So why does this story matter? Why does it shake us? Make us angry and hopeful at the same time? Because it's not really about one CEO and one director. It's about systems, about who gets seen and who gets erased, about who we value and who we discard. Every day, millions of people do essential work that makes our lives possible. They clean our buildings, deliver our food, care for our children and elderly, drive our buses, stock our shelves, not because we're cruel, but because we've been taught not to see. We've been taught that some work is important and some work is just ... work. That some people are leaders and some people are just there to serve leaders. Jessica's story challenges that lie. It reminds us that the person cleaning the floor might be raising the future director. That invisible doesn't mean worthless. That the janitor's daughter might have more vision than the CEO who mocks her. But here's the deeper truth. Jessica didn't need that presidential appointment to have worth. What changed wasn't their value. What changed was visibility. Who was finally forced to see what had always been there. Think about the courage it took for Ruth to keep showing up every day at Hamilton Tech, knowing how they saw her, but still mopping those floors, still doing the work, because that work fed them. That's not weakness. That's strength beyond measure. Ruth and Jessica are black women. And think about Jessica. She could have become bitter, could have let Richard's cruelty poison her, could have given up or sought revenge. Instead, she kept working, kept believing, kept building. Not because she was exceptional, but because her mother taught her that dignity is something you carry inside, that no one can take it unless you give it away. This story also forces us to ask hard questions about power. Richard Blackwell had all of it: money, status, influence, and he used it to humiliate a young black woman whose only crime was dreaming too big for his comfort. Why? What was he protecting? The answer's uncomfortable. He was protecting a system that benefited him. A social order where people like him stayed on top and people like Jessica and Ruth stayed beneath. Where worth was determined by birth and race, not character. Where power was inherited, not earned. Jessica's success threatened that order. It proved the system was a lie. And lies, when exposed, make people cruel. They mock. They diminish. Try to push the truth back into darkness. But truth is patient. Truth waits. Truth grows. In communities of colors, especially black communities, there's a deep understanding of this patience. Of planting seeds you might not see bloom. Of carrying dignity through degradation. Ruth embodied this. Every day she went to work, she was planting seeds. In her daughter, in the future, and when Jessica stood in that White House, when the president called her Madam Director, those seeds bloomed. Not just for them, for everyone watching. For every black parent working invisible jobs while raising visible dreams. For every young black person told they don't belong. But let's be honest about something else. This story had a fairy tale ending. Jessica got the position, got the recognition, got to stand on that stage while the world watched her rise. Most stories don't end like that. Most times, the cleaning lady's daughter doesn't become a presidential appointee. Most times, the cruel CEO faces no consequences. Most times, the viral video never happens and the injustice remains buried. And those people, those countless black people who never get their moment, they matter just as much. The janitor who never sees his son become famous, the housekeeper whose daughter becomes a teacher in a small town, the delivery driver whose kid grows up to be a good parent. Those stories matter. That dignity matters. Jessica's story is beautiful because it's visible, but invisible dignity is just as real. So what do we do with this story? How do we let it change us? First, we see people, really see them. The black woman cleaning your office, the woman serving your food, the man driving your Uber. They're not just there, they're right there. It's with full lives and full dreams and full humanity. Second, we check our power. If you have influence on small influence, how do you use it? To lift or to diminish, to include or to exclude, to see or to erase? Third, we remember that systems change when we refuse to accept them, when we speak up, when we support each other. And finally, we tell these stories. We bear witness. Because every time someone's dignity is affirmed, the world shifts a little. Every time cruelty is challenged, the system cracks a little.